the wisest person I ever met in my life, a third grade dropout. Wisest and dropout in the same sentence is rather oxymoronic, like jumbo shrimp. Like fun run, ain't nothing fun about it. Like Microsoft Works, y'all don't hear me. I used to say like country music, but I've lived in Texas so long, I love country music now. I hunt, I fish, I have cowboy boots and cowboy, y'all, I'm a blackneck redneck. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? No longer oxymoronic for me to say country music. And it's not oxymoronic for me to say third grade and dropout. That third grade dropout, the wisest person I ever met in my life, who taught me to combine knowledge and wisdom to make an impact, was my father. A simple cook. Wisest man I ever met in my life. Just a simple cook. Left school in the third grade to help out on the family farm, but just because he left school doesn't mean his education stopped. Mark Twain once said, "I've never allowed my schooling to get in the way of my education." My father taught himself how to read, taught himself how to write, decided in the midst of Jim Crowism, as America was breathing the last gasp of the Civil War, my father decided he was going to stand and be a man. Not a black man, not a brown man, not a white man, but a man. He literally challenged himself to be the best that he could all the days of his life. I have 4 degrees. My brother is a judge. We're not the smartest ones in our family. It's a third grade dropout daddy. A third grade dropout daddy who was quoting Michelangelo, saying to us, "Boys, I won't have a problem if you aim high and miss, but I'm gonna have a real issue if you aim low and hit." A country mother quoting Henry Ford, saying, "If you think you can or if you think you can't, you're right." I learned that from a third grade drop. Simple lessons. Lessons like these. Son, you'd rather be an hour early than a minute late. We never knew what time it was at my house because the clocks were always ahead. My mother said for nearly 30 years, my father left the house at 3:45 in the morning. One day she asked him, "Why, Daddy?" He said, "Maybe one of my boys will catch me in the act of excellence. I want to share 2 things with you." Aristotle said, "You are what you repeatedly do." Therefore, excellence ought to be a habit, not an act. Don't ever forget that. I know you're tough, but always remember to be kind. Always. Don't ever forget that. Never embarrass mama. Yeah. If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. If daddy ain't happy, don't nobody care. But I'm trying to tell you. Next lesson. Lesson from a cook over there in the galley. Son, make sure your servant's towel is bigger than your ego. Ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. Y'all might have a relative in mind you want to send that to. Let me say it again. Ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. Pride is the burden of a foolish person. John Wooden coached basketball at UCLA for a living, but his calling was to impact people. And with all those national championships, guess what he was found doing in the middle of the week? Going into the cupboard, grabbing a broom, and sweeping his own gym floor. You want to make an impact? Find your broom. Every day of your life, you find your broom. You grow your influence that way. That way you're attracting people so that you can impact them. Final lesson. Son, if you're gonna do a job, do it right. I've always been told how average I can be. Always been criticized about being average. But I want to tell you something. I stand here before you, before all of these people, not listening to those words, but telling myself every single day to shoot for the stars, to be the best that I can be. Good enough isn't good enough if it can be better, and better isn't good enough if it can be best. Let me close with a very personal story that I think will bring all this into focus. Wisdom will come to you in the unlikeliest of sources, a lot of times through failure. When you hit rock bottom, remember this. While you're struggling, rock bottom can also be a great foundation on which to build and on which to grow. I'm not worried that you'll be successful. I'm worried that you won't fail from time to time. Person that gets up off the canvas and keeps growing, that's the person that will continue to grow their influence. Back in the 70s, to help me make this point, let me introduce you to someone. I met the finest woman I'd ever met in my life. Back in my day, we'd have called her a brick house. This woman was the finest woman I'd ever seen in my life. There's just one little problem. Back then, ladies didn't like big old linemen. The Blind Side hadn't come out yet. They like quarterbacks and running backs. We're at this dance, and I find out her name is Trina Williams from Lompoc, California. And we're all dancing, and we're just excited. And I decide in the middle of dancing with her that I would ask her for her phone number. Trina was the first one. Trina was the only woman in college who gave me her real telephone number. The next day, we walked to Baskin & Robbins ice cream parlor. My friends couldn't believe it. This has been 40 years ago, and my friends still can't believe it. We go on a second date, and a third date, and a fourth date. We drive from Chico to Vallejo so that she could meet my parents. My father meets her. My daddy, my hero, he meets her, pulls me to the side and says, "Is she psycho?" But anyway, we go together for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. By now, Trina's a senior in college. I'm still a freshman, but I'm working some things out. I'm so glad I graduated in 4 terms. Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan. So now it's time to propose. So I talk to her girlfriends, and it's California, it's in the 70s, so it has to be outside. You have to have a candle, and you have to have, some chocolate. Listen, I'm from the hood. I had a bottle of Boone's Farm wine. That's what I had. She said yes. That was the key. I married the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen in my life. Y'all ever been to a wedding, and even before the wedding starts, you hear this? How in the world? And it was coming from my side of the family. We get married, we have a few children, our lives are great. One day, Trina finds a lump in her left breast. Breast cancer. 6 years after that diagnosis, me and my 2 little boys walked up to Mommy's casket. And for 2 years, my heart didn't beat. If it wasn't for my faith in God, I wouldn't be standing here today. If it wasn't for those 2 little boys, there would have been no reason for which to go on. I was completely lost. That was rock bottom. You know what sustained me? The wisdom of a 3rd grade dropout. The wisdom of a simple cook. We're at the casket. I'd never seen my dad cry. But this time I saw my dad cry. That was his daughter. Trina was his daughter, not his daughter-in-law. And I'm right behind my father, about to see her for the last time on this earth. And my father shared 3 words with me that changed my life right there at the casket. It would be the last lesson he would ever teach me. He said, "Son, just stand. You keep standing. You keep standing, no matter how rough the sea, you keep standing." And I'm not talking about just water. You keep standing. No matter what, you don't give up. And as clearly as I'm talking to you today, these were some of her last words to me. She looked me in the eye and she said, "It doesn't matter to me any longer how long I live. What matters to me most is how I live." I ask y'all one question, a question that I was asked all my life by a 3rd grade dropout. How you living? How you living? Every day, ask yourself that question, how you living? Here's what a cook would suggest you to live this way. That you would not judge, that you would show up early, that you'd be kind, that you'd make sure that that servant's towel is huge and used, that if you're gonna do something, you do it the right way. That cook would tell you this, that it's never wrong to do the right thing, that how you do anything is how you do everything. And in that way, you will grow your influence to make an impact. In that way, you will honor all those who have gone before you, who have invested in you. Look in those unlikeliest places for wisdom. Enhance your life every day by seeking that wisdom and asking yourself every night, how am I living? May God richly bless y'all. Thank you for having me.
If today was your last day and tomorrow was too late, could you say goodbye to yesterday? Or would you live each moment like your last? Leave old pictures in the past, donate every dime you had. And would you call on friends you never seen, reminisce on memories? Would you forgive your enemies? And would you find that one you're dreaming of? Swear up and down to God above that you finally fall in love. If today was your last day, if today was your last day, would you make your mark like mending a broken heart? You know it's never too late to shoot for the stars, regardless of who you are. So do whatever it takes, 'cause you can't rewind a moment in this life. Let nothing stand in your way, 'cause the hands of time are never on your side. If today was your last day and tomorrow was too late, could you say goodbye to yesterday? Or would you live each moment like your last? Leave old pictures in the past, donate every dime you had. And would you call on friends you've never seen, reminisce on memories? Would you forgive your enemies? And would you find that one you're dreaming of? Swear up and down to God above that you finally fall in love. If today was your last day.
I remember being younger and people always telling me the decisions you make today will affect you for the rest of your life. And I'd just kind of nod and shrug it off. But the crazy thing is I'm starting to learn that they were right. I'm starting to see that when people said, show me your friends and I'll show you your future, that was real. Because now I look back and the dudes I used to roll with, they're all strung out or OD'd on pills. I'm starting to see that every choice today either makes or breaks tomorrow. And that life doesn't really give you redos and doesn't have sympathy for your sorrow. In fact, it likes to kick you when you're down. I remember being depressed in high school, but the funny thing is when I looked up, there was nobody around. My so-called friends weren't really my boys as soon as this world threw an attack. I learned that real friends aren't about what's said to your face, but what's said behind your back. You want to know who's really with you? Watch people's reaction to your success. It's funny because a lot of people will turn on you as soon as your better beats their best. I learned that with growing pains, sometimes you have to let go of old ways and take people out of your life. I learned that having negative people around you is sometimes more lethal than a double-edged knife. I surrounded myself with the wrong people and they started to bring me down. I wanted to get away, but I felt like I was stuck and all I could do was drown. But then I finally stopped making excuses and decided to be a man. I stopped worrying about what people thought about me and realized they just couldn't understand. I made a choice to stop listening to the people who told me I couldn't. I took those couldn'ts and turned them to coulds and coulds into cans. And now I'm 21 and I have over 10,000 fans. Because I learned that everything I needed didn't come from this world, but the one called I am. I learned that a lion doesn't lose sleep over the opinion of sheep. I decided I was no longer gonna believe I was a loser and that I wouldn't accept defeat. I decided I was gonna be great and that nothing would slow me down. Now don't get me wrong, I fell a many a times, but during that process I learned that growth comes from being knocked down. I fall down 7 times, but I stand up 8. See, without being knocked down, you never learn how to be great. Success can only come through failure, and it's never just fate. It's a grind and an everyday choice, and it's not something that you can fake. And I don't care what you come from, whether you have money or you're poor. Whether you grew up without a dad or maybe you're like me and life's got you knocked to the floor. It's time to get up and fight because we don't have hearts that are timid. I'm gonna be a light in this dark world, and I really suggest you try not to dim it. I remember getting picked on in school, and man, no one knew the battles I was facing. I used to want to erase all those memories, but now I know the power in embracing, because all that hurt prepared me for this moment. And now I have no doubts, and I don't need your approval. Just give me a Bible and a mic, and I promise I'll own it. I'm putting the cross before me and the world behind. I don't do this for the popularity, and it's so much more than some stupid rhymes. My only mission is to save lost souls before we run out of time. And I'm a kid that came from a broken family and a single mom, and now I'm on my way to being a doctor and influencing a generation. And I'm telling you, all it takes is determination and patience and committing to greatness. And to the kids that have been told that you can, I promise you can. And the big man upstairs loves you, and I promise he has a plan. It's time to stop settling for ordinary. You deserve more than that. It's time to start making decisions today to get your life back on track. It's time to turn on that tunnel vision and let the haters fall back. No more listening to the people who said you couldn't, because now they're just one more reason you will. No more falling into peer pressure. There's more to life than a temporary high. Don't live it chasing a feel. Don't give up on your dreams and drown out the doubt. Don't be scared of the battles, and remember that sometimes to appreciate the rain, you have to walk through a drought. Find the beauty in the struggle and growth in the pain. Take pride in who you are and give yourself a name. We give 100% in all we do, and we'll never be stopped. And there is only one place that we will finish, and that's on top.
Free at last, what a joyful noise we'll make as we join with heaven's song to let all the world know that Jesus saves. We'll raise a shout to let all the world know that Jesus saves. We'll sing it out to let all the world know that Jesus saves. We'll raise a shout to let all the world know that Jesus saves. You save, you heal, restore, reveal your Father's heart to us. You rose to raise us from the grave. Your Spirit lives in us. Sing it out to let all the world know that Jesus saves. Raise a shout to let all the world know that Jesus saves. Shout it out.